But here's what he did.
Rhyme it. Do you know how to rhyme it? Oh, please just rhyme it.
And he really gets into it.
Do you know how to rhyme it?
Yes, of course.
We will
you don't even have to think about
it. So let's rhyme it today. Rhyme it. Yes. We are gonna do rhyme it. Just rhyme
that's
it.
where he just rammed it.
Everybody, amazing.
I'm not going to remember any of it.
That's good. That's the way to go.
All over the Rams today and ram it.
I mean, now he's like on his feet.
How are you guys?
Whose house?
Wow.
Ram it.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Rams Brothers, the pod. I'm your host, Dean, and I'm joined by the other host of this show, Nick. And Nick, it's 49ers week, lightning strike, thunder. Let's go. How you feeling?
I feel good. 49ers always scare me, reasonably so. It seems like the only team that really has been able to have a hold on the Rams in the Sean McVay era. But yeah, no, I feel good. We don't have to worry about that till Monday. We got a whole weekend of football.
We got a whole weekend of football. We got a full preview ready, set for you guys. And you know, it's 49ers week, but, you know, obviously going back to last year, there were so many variables with 49ers week, right? It was obviously the fact that they've been 6-0 against us throughout the last regular season, and we saw them again in the NFC Championship. Going back to that game where Sean McVay, the second to last game of the season, or was the last game of the season rather, where he sprinted down the sideline when they were winning 17-0. Like, there's so much history, there's so much background, the mentorship of Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay. Like, there's a lot to the story, and there's reasons why the 49ers treat these Rams games like they're Super Bowls, right? So before we go into anything else, Nick, let's talk about our sponsor real quick. Sound good?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to talk about our sponsor.
Bet Online. Bet Online is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with first-to-market odds and lines. Find your reviews and news for every league: Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. Bet Online continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information, from live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head over to Bet Online today and use your mobile device to join today, and make sure your first deposit is with Bet Online. Use promo code BELIEVE50, BLEAV50. Receive your 50% welcome bonus, your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game begins. Okay. I mean, we're going to talk about Nick's picks in this episode. We're going to talk, I'm sure, about Rams 49ers and the way that the money line is set, the way that the spread is set. But Nick, in general, how do you feel about the 49ers after seeing them the first 3 weeks, obviously most recently going up against Russell Wilson and the Broncos in prime time? How do you feel about this team?
So guttural reaction, because it's the 49ers, my gut is telling me don't bet on the game. I don't like it. It's not worth it. It's going to be a headache. They kind of stomped on us the first time they saw us last year. They know how to play us well. But I think if you look at the subtractions to the 49ers, where they are now, where they were last year, McDaniels on the Dolphins now, head coach. He was a huge part of it. Jimmy G clearly is frustrated, a subtraction from Trey Lance, even though that's who we saw last year. And then Trent Williams also down. Kittle is back. But it's a stay away game. I'm going to watch every second of it. But yeah, when I don't have money on these Rams games, I watch them just as if I did anyway.
Right. It's the same thing.
My blood boils equally as high either way. So I'm going to be sweating it out like everybody else. Yeah. I do think they have a better chance because on paper, they're just I think they're a better team. But obviously in division and with Shanahan, you just never know.
No, I think it's a good point to not have to put any money on this game, right? Just because there's so many things that we don't know, right? I mean, these games could go any which way. Like the first game going back to last year that they played, the Rams got their asses kicked in the awful month of November. 49ers won that game 31-10. When the Niners were 3-5 and we were 7-2 in their stadium. So, I mean, it was actually really interesting. I was watching the 49ers Twitter account continuously tweet out. All 49ers Twitter has been doing
this was bizarre.
I mean, the Rams, Like it was Rams week with that evil emoji, that purple emoji with the horns coming out of his head. Like you guys were 3-5 at that point in the season, and we're only let into the playoffs because of us. And then we ended their season obviously in the NFC Championship. But
They were flexing like they had beat us in the NFC Championship game. Like, oh yeah, easy little brother Rams. And I'm just sitting there. I'm like, how are you? Like, I get you have to tweet about it and it has to be about the Rams because, you're a social media manager and you have to make it fun. But to make it seem like you were on top of us when we beat you in the game leading up to the Super Bowl where your best wide receiver is crying on the sidelines, like I don't think that's something to gloat about. Like, excuse me.
I mean, you're giving us the opportunity to just come back at you with gifs and pictures and moments, and you're setting us up for success here, 49ers Twitter. That's also the biggest thing.
I think before we go into like in-depth analysis, I think the best thing for the Rams is that leading up to this game is that they are 2-1. Because if you go into this game 3-0, you're comfortable. You're going into San Francisco. It's not a far trip.
Nope.
That feels like a guaranteed loss, right? But they're only up to they're 2-1 Monday night. All eyes on them. This is a chance to somebody that's kind of gotten under your skin for a really long time. Have a statement win. Be clearly on top of the NFC West after destroying the Cardinals. So I think that all of that, particularly the record that we have now, is the main reason why I feel more confident in them than I usually would.
Yeah, it's an opportunity to separate yourself in the Division One. But like Nick, to your point also, if you were 3-0 going into this week, your mindset's much different. And we saw that in the first game of the season last year against the 49ers. When they were coming off of a stretch of the Giants, the Lions, and the Texans. So you and I were in LA together celebrating that Lions game. Like it was a party. And obviously that game was close to the end, but they dismantled the Giants. And then on the back end, just dismantled the Texans.
Crazy. I don't even remember the Giants game. Like I don't have any memory of it. It's so I remember every other game in the season.
I feel like I have a better memory of the Giants game in 2017 or 18.
Yeah,
where Robert Woods took that screen all the way down the field, I think it was, or was a jet sweep that he took 76 yards. So odd that certain moments and certain plays stand out more than others. But no, I think you're totally right. It's the fact that if you're 3-0 at this point, you beat the Buffalo Bills, right? You take care of business there. And then you go into the next two games with wins against the Cardinals and the Falcons. And then you're sitting there against the 49ers thinking to yourself, you're in the same exact situation as you were last year. And like, there's still, I think, like a belief that this team, even then, had a much bigger goal beyond just the division rival and big brother Kyle Shanahan. In just that week, in the month of November, you felt like there was potentially a little bit more, although they were kind of falling behind. But, it's such an interesting situation because, like we said, as we started off the podcast, it's always bigger and deeper and further beyond just the story of Sean McVay versus Kyle Shanahan, right? There's so many variables that come into play when you see these two teams play. And then you fast forward to January 9th, which was the final game of the season. You're thinking to yourself, no Trent Williams. The Rams are prepared. They're 12-4. And the way that the playoff seeding shook out too, it actually kind of worked in their benefit. If they let San Francisco into the playoffs and they had to go through Dallas and Green Bay, and then they had to potentially see us in the NFC Championship if they were lucky enough to get there, and they were. But they were 9-7 at the time in this Week 18 game last year. So just surface level stuff. Like that first game of the season, Rams are coming off of a really soft stretch of teams. This game, Week 18, the Rams have the division clinched. You got the season pretty much wrapped up. You're 12-4. And they went up 17-0 in this game. And Higbee had 2 touchdowns in the first 22 minutes of the game. He did that dance where his back was sore, and then he kind of did the
McVay ran onto the field.
And McVay sprints onto the field. I don't know if he got flagged. I think he got a warning from the refs.
He got a warning, and then my friends are texting me, any other head coach, that's a flag. And I'm like, okay.
But it's proof, though, that these games never seem to be put away. And it also matters for the 49ers, 1, because they're cockroaches and it seems like you got to take 3 shots to take them out. But 2, because they play the Rams like it's their biggest playoff game, like it's their Super Bowl, right? And now, obviously, the way that the drama has unfolded, they've won 6 of the last 7 games. The only game they haven't won is the NFC Championship. Like, imagine if that were us and the Cardinals, because last week we're talking about the Cardinals, how we've won 10 of 11 against the Cardinals. Imagine if that one game was an NFC Championship victory where the Cardinals ended up winning the Super Bowl. Like, the kind of animosity we would have between us two teams.
Jumping into a portal and coming out the other side where the 49ers win that NFC Championship game, and then they go on and play a Super Bowl in LA would have been detrimental to what that stadium is for Rams fans.
Totally.
That would have become Levi 2.0. And that was, I don't even think we realized it at that point.
No,
we were just thinking about the win. But yeah, the fact that the Rams took care of business when they did, I think that in all greats, period. And throughout sports, in life, in everything, it's easy to be a winner. It's more important to see how you respond from losing. And the Rams losing all those times against San Francisco, and then now they have this like nightmare that they just can't get past in an NFC Championship game. Sean McVay, been to a Super Bowl before, lost, comes back to an NFC Championship game, and then is able to respond and beat them despite adversities, like your favorite player dropping a touchdown.
Oh, no. Do we have to pull up the apology form again?
Yeah, pull it up this time because I was upset last time you pulled it up, but I'm ready for it.
All right, obviously change of pace, but the Ben Skoranek apology form, ladies and gentlemen.
Hold on, let me just read this. To Ben Skoranek from Nick, reason for behavior. I wasn't jealous, even though I do kind of look like him. I can't select media told me he was bad because I'm the media. Didn't watch the actual games. I listened to I'm going to make my own little checkbox that says, you had done me wrong, but I apologize, Ben.
No, I understand. Like, going back, and I'm not going to talk about Ben Skoranek for this entire episode, but obviously going back to that moment where, he kind of did toss up an interception in the NFC Championship game. Like, I mean, it's understandable, but he's going to be one of the most important pieces of this offense. Like, if you want to see the Rams kind of churn through the 49ers defense, which is obviously one of the top in the league, despite the fact they played 3 of the worst offenses in the league, it's going to be inclusive of that same kind of play action and commitment to the run and, all the kind of things schematically that the Rams have done over the past couple of weeks that we've kind of gravitate to love. And Ben Skoranek is just a part of that. But, that's what's and you know what? It's a good segue too, Nick, because when I went back and watched the NFC Championship tonight, what scared me the most was the fact that Odell Beckham Jr. was all over the field.
You went back and watched the NFC Championship?
I did. Yeah.
That's awesome.
He's not going to be on the field in this game, obviously, but he went for 113 yards on 9 receptions. And Cooper Kupp obviously went for 140 yards and had 2 touchdowns, but Odell Beckham Jr. was such an integral part of that offense at the time. Like, to me, this is the Allen Robinson game. Like, this is the opportunity for Allen Robinson to do exactly what Odell Beckham Jr. did in the NFC Championship against this 49ers team. Like, I think he showed throughout his career he's plenty capable of 9 receptions for 113 yards. And you can't be so heavily relying on Cooper Kupp. It's just, it's the 49ers know exactly what to do, and I'll get into their defense in a second, but they know exactly how to defend Cooper Kupp. They know how to defend, with their 2 high shells, with the quarters defense they were playing against the Broncos to prevent Jerry Jeudy from going deep. Like, just really interesting stuff. But I feel like the Rams only averaging 2.5 yards per carry in the NFC Championship. It was the Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Odell Beckham Jr., and Kendall Blanton show. Like, those 4 guys versus the world was the NFC Championship against the 49ers.
Something that I'm hearing buzz from is Malcolm Brown being cleared and ready. And I think, if I remember correctly, Malcolm Brown was one of those guys in the Gurley era that kind of ran all over this team. So maybe that's kind of the spark that they need. This is going to be funny because of how much I changed my thought process. I don't think Allen Robinson is going to be the answer. I think it's going to be a combination of Powell and fullback Skoranek. honestly.
It sure could be. I mean, that's the way that the offense is trending.
Yeah, Robinson dropping a touchdown, like a clear ball in his hands. That's something that, I mean, go back and look at that Cardinals game. The fumble on the 1 yard line, and then Allen Robinson dropped touchdown. It should have been a massacre.
Yeah, it should have been 27-12 at the very least.
I think Stafford is going to trust the guys that he played with last year, maybe a little more than Robinson going forward. And yeah, hopefully Malcolm Brown just does what we know him to do, which is, goal line bowling ball, So
that's my fear, though, is with Sony Michel, like towards the end of the season last year in the NFC Championship, Sony Michel, I think, averaged 1.6 yards per carry. Like he had 10 carries for I don't know, 16 yards. Like, I mean, almost nothing. And Malcolm Brown kind of fits the same mold, but I don't totally disagree with you in the fact that their scheme's a little bit different now, right? So they're not. I mean, if the Rams are lined up to run a play and go to the right or left side with Sony Michel in last year's offense, it was a little bit more obvious because of how often they were in shotgun, how often they were in empty, how often they were in 5 wide. Now it feels like if you can develop that scheme, you could put a fullback in front of Malcolm Brown. And, on 3rd and 2, I watched in the NFC Championship and in the Super Bowl, times where they're setting themselves up where Stafford's 5-6 yards behind where he should be, when in reality he could be under center. You could be faking the jet sweep and giving it to Skoranek on one side, and then Malcolm Brown on the other side, just getting kind of creative with the run scheme and utilizing some of the things that San Francisco does so well with pulling guards and moving traffic and lead blockers. So that's the way that the offense is trending. I just feel like with Allen Robinson, if there's any kind of vacancy in any zone, or if they feel like there's a mismatch in an area, they're going to attack whoever that player is. It could be Skoranek, it could be Allen Robinson, it could be Cooper Kupp, which it never is because Cooper Kupp is double teamed at the highest rate in the entire league and still puts up the best stats, making him the best receiver in the league. But if Allen Robinson can find the vacancy, he's going to have a huge day.
Kind of nuts that the Rams have the 2 most double team players, and one of them is on offense and the other is on defense.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
I'm sure they would have more if you could double team more players. But no, it's a good point.
When OBJ comes back,
Sure.
I mean, that was such the key. That's why I placed the Super Bowl bet as soon as they got OBJ, the future, that they would win the Super Bowl, because he was able to open up so much to Kupp because the guy is just so good at getting open. Yeah. And it's like, yes, okay, Kupp's not open. OBJ down the sideline is like always an option.
Yeah.
So, we thought
right.
Robinson was going to be able to do that. And so far he's been not really doing that.
Well, I mean, let's talk about the 49ers defense for a second, because I feel like it's a little bit different. And the reason why I say that is, Talanoa, Hufanga, and Tayshaun Gibson, like they're both incredible safeties. Like Hufanga is a USC grad and is a Jaquiski Tart replacement. The guy who dropped the interception in the NFC Championship game that Stafford threw up to him as a punt. That's the guy that's the replacement, and he's playing his ass off. So those 2 secret weapons, being as good as they are, you're going to see a little bit of a cover 2 shell. You're going to see limited deep shots, kind of like we saw against Buffalo. I don't think they're going to be able to take the kind of shots that they want to be able to take, because it's not going to be a situation where there's one guy that's weaker than the other. They're all pretty damn good in terms of the 49ers defensive backs. And like I said a little bit earlier in the podcast, when we were in quarters, or when the Broncos were in, they were taking a deep shot to, I think it was Jerry Jeudy, and Sutton was running a dig at about 15 yards, and Jeudy was running a corner post. And you saw this quarters defense, which is kind of like an evolution of the cover 2 shell, which is a little bit scary because against the Broncos, and you try to take when you're defending the Broncos are taking a deep shot, and you have 2 safeties on your number 1 receiver and 2 safeties on your number 2 receiver. Like, you got to get really creative with your pass attack downfield, which is one thing that the long developing pass plays is something that Sean McVay's done a really good job of since 2017, even with Jared Goff. So there's an opportunity to be able to develop some of those things and have some clear out routes where Allen Robinson can clear out a safety and Cooper Kupp could, sprint down the field and catch a pass deep. But you're going to have to get really, really creative because they're as good as they've been on defense.
Yeah. It's good, if not better. I mean, watching that Denver game, I'm sitting there and I'm just like, this is exactly how the 49ers win. You know, they do nothing flashy on offense. They run a lot. They eat up clock. And then they just get you in these positions where they force you to drive all the way down the field. And really, you only need one. You need like one good one.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just can't get it. Russell Wilson, thanks to my Knicks picks, hopefully you guys made some money, was able to defeat them by a single point. 11-10 might have been one of those origami scores. That's
Scoregami.
has like never been.
It was the second time, I think, in league history that score has ever happened.
My gosh. But yeah, I mean, like it's scary. And it's a big reason why we're not betting on the Rams in Knicks picks.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, you got guys like Nick Bosa and Samson Ebukam. Nick Ebukam's back, coming off of the edge. Like, their defense has gotten pressure on 47% of opposing teams' dropbacks this season so far. So Russell Wilson's under pressure, and Geno Smith was under pressure. And who did they play the first week? Justin Fields in that swamp was trying to escape for his life.
Made like no throws.
No, of course. And that offensive line for the Rams has to come prepared in this game. Like, you got to go to a quick passing game with Stafford. You got to go to the tight end screen. You can't allow Stafford to suffer under any kind of pressure the way that he did against Buffalo, because that's just detrimental. I think his sweet spot, 2 sacks tops, 1, 2 sacks, 3 sacks. If you're pushing it, you want to be able to keep him clean, get the ball out of his hand, and have that intricate run scheme so that you can keep the defense on their toes. This is a defense that if you don't keep them guessing, they're going to get pressure on you. They're going to tackle you behind the line of scrimmage, and they're going to put you into the dirt.
And, that's very likely to happen. And especially with somebody who's a little butterfingery with Cam Akers, you just got to make sure that these guys are holding on to the ball, because I know that they force a lot of fumbles.
There's another thing, too, real quick, that Baldy called out on Twitter. He was like, the 49ers, whenever the ball goes to the ground, even if it's an incomplete pass, they're on the ball. Like, they're trying to pick up the ball. They're trying to scoop and score. Their identity is 150% defense. Like, they are Jeff Fisher reincarnated. They want to beat you 11-10. They want to beat you 14-12. They want to beat you 14-11. Like, they want to do it.
Honestly, if you're a 49ers fan, that's not fun to watch.
No,
that's why like a lot of them are like, it's actually interesting because a lot of my friends are 49ers fans at work, and I'm sitting there with them and I'm like, oh, Jimmy G, Vegas thinks you're better, and then they're all upset because they're like, our offense can only be so much with Jimmy. Like, he's like a step away, but you're never going to reach its full potential because he can't, you're relying so much on this like crafty run game, the smoke and mirrors. And I was like, oh, wow, I thought that these guys would be stoked that they got their guy back and they don't need this younger guy to develop. But it's a lot like fantasy football, right? I was just about to trade Joe Mixon for like a bunch of scrap pieces, but the ceiling of Mixon, the ceiling of Trey Lance is going to be 10 times higher than the Jimmy G's and the give me like I don't know, like sorry, Daryl, but like a Daryl Henderson compared to Mixon.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're saying. It's like, it's a situation where you feel like other fans of the team should definitely be behind the guy because he's won so many games, but I don't know. It's the way that I started, and I don't want to bring up Goff. I really don't want to, but I'm going to.
Goff, watch.
It's the way that I felt about Jared Goff at the end of the 2020 season. Yeah. I felt like there was an opportunity to get over the top. I felt like he was as good as he possibly could be. I loved him for who he was. I loved what he brought to the offense. I loved his mentality. He put the whole team on his back. He broke his thumb and still beat the Seahawks in a playoff game, almost beat the Packers the following year. Like, I almost won a Super Bowl. Like, we love Jared Goff, of course. But when you don't get over the top and 5 years goes by, you're on year 6, you're on year 7.
Yeah, it's just
you've also sold your fan base that you've like started this new era with this new quarterback, and he breaks his ankle and is out for the season and is throwing dollar bills at the strip club. So that's what gets a little bit concerning, is the fact that you've sold fans on this dream, and then all of a sudden you're bringing back the same guy that gave you nightmares and wasn't able to get you over the top. We don't see it that way because he's 6-1 against us.
But yeah, I mean, look outside the Rams record, 100%. The Rams and the Niners, just both really couldn't afford to wait around. Like the Lions are completely fine with Jared Goff becoming his apex version of him, which is what I saw he could become because they have the time, they have the patience. Last year was kind of like a rebuild, and now they're becoming a team that's like strong and feisty, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just the Rams and the Niners are both teams that are like, we need to win now. We don't know how much longer Aaron Donald's going to play. Bosa is an absolute dog. Like Debo is like this dual threat. Like we can't be sitting around waiting for you to just be better, you know?
Totally.
And that's why you go out and you get Matt Stafford or you draft a guy like Trey Lance. And it's tough when the teams just don't cooperate, I guess. And,
well, I mean, you saw the
Trey
potential.
Lance goes down.
Yeah, I mean, you saw the potential ramifications of not winning now, right? It's San Francisco taking over your stadium in the Super Bowl and potentially beating the Bengals again and making it their 6th ring, right? So that's where it gets really terrifying. Back to
against the Bengals too.
Yeah, right, exactly. Real quick on the rest of the defense too, because I know that Tyler Higbee is somebody that we've wanted to call out over recent weeks. He's actually been having a really good year so far, and obviously in that second game of the season, he was a vital piece, and he was out in the NFC Championship. But Tyler Higbee has been targeted 23 times throughout 3 games so far. It's a decent amount of targets for a tight end, and he's a reason why he's slowly becoming a top 10 fantasy option. Matthew Stafford likes to go to him because he's a bigger target. He's comfortable in the screen game. He's a willing blocker, and he's a long tenured player. And then going out and just having to get creative with how Tyler Higbee is being used and how Kendall Bland is being used. Like I could use more tight end screens. I could use more 2 to 3 yard passes where it gives them opportunities to catch and run.
Bland, immediate impact, by the way.
Yeah, you're going to have to do that, though, against this team. You're going to kind of have to take a little bit of what the San Francisco 49ers do really well, take a little bit of what the Los Angeles Rams do really well, and combine it into this intricate run scheme. Obviously, a play-action pass game. You're going to have the empty option, and then also just be able to get the ball in your best players' hands, right? Opportunities to put Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson back in the backfield the same way that they do with Deebo Samuel, the same way that they do with Brandon Ayuk and Kyle Juszczyk, right? They get the ball in the hands of their best players, and that seems very, very simplified, but the way that they're able to move everybody around the field is what's the most interesting part. And Tyler Higbee is not somebody, Nick, that I feel like if you were a defensive coordinator, like would Tyler Higbee be keeping you up at night whatsoever?
No, I'm playing against him this week in fantasy, and he's not keeping me up. Right.
So no, he's not keeping you awake. He's a guy that's been here a while, but he's also a guy that can move the chains and can really get the offense rolling and get some continuity and momentum built right in. So I'm excited to see what that has to offer, but also the 49ers defense has been defending tight ends better than anybody else in the league, allowing an average of just 3.3 targets, 1.67 receptions, and then 7.6 yards to the position. That's tight ends throughout the league so far. It's only 3 game sample size. But their defense, Nick, 227 yards per game allowed. That's second. 148 passing yards allowed per game. 148 passing yards, a little skewed, obviously, but that's first. 78.7 rushing yards allowed per game. That's fourth. And then 12.3 points per game allowed. That's third. But again, they played the Bears, the Seahawks, and the Broncos. I don't think either of those 3 teams have dominant offenses.
Broncos are still figuring it out. Seahawks are potentially the worst team in the league. And then the Bears are the other worst team in the league. And they lost to 2 of them.
Right. I think that the most telling stat amongst everything that I just read is that they're allowing 9.3 points per game, and they're still 1-2.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, but for whatever reason, their offense seems to always click when they play us. So that's the only thing that I'm just.
And that's the problem with previewing a San Francisco 49ers game. It feels like you could put together all this work, and then the game plan is flipped on your head the same way it's been to Sean McVay.
It's so funny. They had everything there that they could have wanted to walk into that Super Bowl. You play Green Bay when it's cold, and your special teams gets you a touchdown by good defense. Green Bay does nothing. Rodgers has a horrible game. You play Dallas, who has like one of the worst coaches, and then you get your cupcake Rams, who you destroyed, and then that's the one they couldn't get past. Like they had everything that they could have wanted, man. I mean, it's just tough.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's tough to go on the road 3 straight games, but to your point, that wasn't
The
necessarily
Bengals did it. Bengals went on the road 4 straight games.
right. Yeah, and it's like to your point, it wasn't even necessarily a road game in the NFC Championship because there were so many 49ers fans at that game, which is disgusting.
No, but I do think the waking up in your own bed has a lot to do with it, as opposed to like, even though not a home game, the Rams had the most comfortable. They were in the most comfortable position.
Yeah, they were. They sure were. The offense, switching gears.
Yeah, so now going from first to like 32nd in a couple things.
I mean, complete opposite. Like the complete opposite. It looks like it just completely flipped on his head. Points scored, 28th, total yards, 23rd, passing yards, 29th, rush yards per attempt, 13th, third down percentage, 20th. Like, I'm trying to remember what they did after that first series where they scored a touchdown against the Broncos. Like it wasn't good. They didn't score any
field
points.
goal. They had a field goal somewhere in there,
Right.
and that's
They
it.
had a field goal. They went punt, 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 fumble, safety, punt, field goal, punt, interception, fumble. That's what their offense did against the Broncos. I mean, Ajiro Evero, I believe his name is, who used to be defense coordinator. It wasn't defense coordinator for the Rams, but I think he was a linebackers coach or defensive assistant in Denver, is doing a hell of a job. And obviously they have some 49ers players, some old 49ers players on that defense. But still, I mean, this offense with Jimmy G, within the first 3 games, you're playing Seattle's defense. You can't get anything going against them. Obviously the first game was Trey Lance, and then against the Broncos in primetime, it just feels like there is nothing to this offense unless they have the ball in their best player's hands, and that player is Deebo Samuel. That's what it feels like.
He's a good fantasy player to have, like I do.
And going back to it, and Deebo made a big stink in the offseason about not being the guy with the ball in his hands all the time, not being
right. I forgot about that.
But this is the kind of game
they paid him.
Right, they paid him, and they gave him his guaranteed money. And this is the kind of game where I feel like he's the kind of guy that will put on the chain and he'll lead the way coming out of the locker room, and he'll say, this is my time, this is my kind of game, and he'll try to own it the way that he did in the first 2 regular season games last year. But that offense against the Broncos, and this is a quote from George Kittle, the whole game was 3 turnovers, a safety, and 1 for 10 on third down. That's just bad offense in every form. And I feel like I've been pretty confident with what the Rams have done defensively, especially against the Cardinals, just schematically being able to get pressure. Jalen Ramsey playing out of his mind. He's going to be highly motivated. Maybe we're going to get some defensive backs back in terms of health. Maybe we get Darion Kendrick back, who's dealing with a concussion. Maybe give him some extra time after what happened to Tua tonight. Hamstring injury to Kobe Durant. Hamstring injury to there was Jordan Fuller, and then a groin injury to David Long. So, I mean, for example, we get 2 of those guys back, even if it's the 2 rookies, I feel like it puts us in a better position in terms of depth to be able to handle some of the stuff that the 49ers are going to throw at us. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just overall, I also would just like to mention that our defense is playing pretty well.
Yeah.
So regardless of what happens with their offense, even if they do play better than projected, I still know that every quarterback in the NFC West has nightmares of Aaron Donald.
Yeah, and you know what, too? If it isn't, and you're totally right, as they should, but even if they do put up 31
He took down 2 of them. He took down 2 NFC West quarterbacks in the playoffs last year.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, took down Kyler and Jimmy G.
Yeah.
And probably they took down Russell Wilson earlier on in the season, too. They broke his hand, I think it was. Aaron Donald broke his hand. But no, what I was going to say is that, like, this whole defense, like, if they give up 31 points to this team, like they did last year in November, like, it felt like there was a legitimate reason to panic, although it was their only 2nd loss of the year in 9 games. But this game, I feel like if they give up 31 points to this offense, maybe there's a little bit of a reason to be concerned, right? Because there's no expectation for the Rams right now to put up 31 points. 49ers get off to a hot start and get up 14-0 again like they did in the first game of last year, I think there's going to be a little bit of a concern because that's when Sean McVay moves away from his run game. That's when he'll put Stafford in there, and he'll try to beat you through the air.
He panics.
Get panicky. Exactly. And that's really what I don't want to see. But, I mean, like I remember back to the preview we did last year for the last game of the season that wasn't the NFC Championship. We were talking about Trent Williams because I know you brought him up earlier on in the podcast. We were like, oh, Trent Williams is hurt. Like this game, it's the last game of the season. You know, we're going to be 13-3 or 13-4 or whatever it is. And there's no concerns over the fact that, you know, this backup Colton McKivick is going to come in and play really well. But I mean, he was injured in the last game of the year last year. And I remember being so excited over the fact that he wasn't. But best left tackle in the game isn't playing. Von Miller's going to do this. Aaron Donald's going to do that. Jimmy G was sacked 3 times and was pressured like 5 times and threw for 316 yards. So that's why I say if we prepare a script and we, you know, are talking through all these things, these are the kind of games, and it's always specifically a divisional game, but Rams-Niners, the game gets totally flipped.
What happens is we prepare a script and we go through it, and it's opinions that we both agree on. And then we get to the end, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, the Rams are going to win. And then I bet on it. And I'm like, oh yeah, I mean, all of those arguments have to come to fruition. And then when they lose, I'm just like in the pits. But yeah, no, I think just coming at it at a medium pace and just being like, let's see what happens. Yeah. There is a real chance for them to be dominant NFC West heroes. So I'm just hoping we get to the end of that. And it would be nice just to be like, hey, we beat you in the NFC Championship, man. We're better, you know? Like there is a portal where they just 17-0 and then they just keep going.
Sure.
So
yeah. I mean, and this is also
they haven't really been running yet this year, briefly in the Falcons game, but then they blew it. So
this is the first game, and it's obviously Bobby Wagner's probably almost 100th game against an NFC West opponent, but it's the first game that Bobby Wagner is going to be in the middle of the field, preventing all the shit that the 49ers do across the middle of the field. You got Ernest Jones and Bobby Wagner. Last year, it was Troy Reeder and Ernest Jones, if you were lucky, if they were both healthy. I'm wearing my Bobby Wagner. You ever see the Bobby Wagner press conference? He's got like an XL version of this on, where I almost questioned him today. I was like, Bobby, how come you have an XL version and Sean McVay has a media? Every single time I see McVay tight on the sleeves.
He exists in the Schmedium High School Express T-shirt realm.
Totally. With the hair straight up like that.
That's how I used to wear my hair, and that's how tight my shirts used to be when I was in high school.
Same. I mean, it works for him. What can you say?
Yeah.
But I mean, I think there's got to be some emphasis on the fact that Bobby Wagner is now a Ram, and the 49ers historically haven't been.
He's kind of disappeared a little bit, so this would be a good week to come out.
So if you're just sitting there watching the game and it's just kind of like free flowing, of course, I understand why people say that, but the way that he delegates, like if you go back and watch like in slow motion pre-snap, he'll be pointing in this direction. He'll be pointing in that direction. He'll be telling Ernest Jones his assignment. He'll be telling Jalen Ramsey where to be on this play. Like he is,
he's a
true quarterback. Yeah, I mean, he really is. And sometimes in a great defense, the quarterback may get disguised because he knows how to delegate so well, because he knows how to dish out assignments, and he'll make the plays that he has to make. I mean, in one-on-one open space, he's not going to be the same player that he was 8, 9, 10 years ago, but he is plenty smart enough to be able to kind of dish opinions, dish diagnoses, pre-snap, post-snap, tendencies, motions, all that kind of stuff. Like he's going right back to Raheem Morris and he's saying, okay, they did this on 3rd and 2. They did this on 3rd and 5. In this series last year, they did this on 3rd and 6. Like he's beyond smart. And I think he's going to be a big reason why this Rams defense can put the 49ers away in this game.
Yeah, for sure. Him and all the other great defensive players that we have.
And of course, Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. You got one on every level.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's the first time we can.
I do think I need to specifically look out for him in this game because he could have a huge impact. I forgot how Seattle always owns them and we own Seattle, and
always
a weird cycle.
Yeah, Bobby Wagner has a really good record against the 49ers.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to be ready to go. He knows exactly what that offense brings to the table, and I think that they're going to be well prepared for the game.
Should we take a break?
I think so.
Did we go over our injuries?
Yeah, we talked about David Long, Darian Kendrick, Jordan Fuller, Jacoby Durant, and Brian Allen. Brian Allen did not practice today. I think that the one thing that I wanted to call out specifically, Rob Havenstein, not on the injury report. You saw him go down in the game last week. Obviously, highly
He
concerning.
practiced.
Yeah, he practiced today. Yeah, not on the injury report at all. Like, our core is still very much healthy. Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, Bobby Wagner, Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, all very, very healthy.
John Wolford.
Well, I don't know. Remember, he broke his fingernail? I think he's still recovering from that. Yeah, in preseason, he shattered his fingernail. He was out for a couple weeks.
Perkins.
Yeah, but when we saw Havenstein go down, we saw Bobby Evans jump in at that right tackle position, and that's where it gets scary. But we're healthy enough. I think the defensive backs obviously could have half of them come in and play. You got Kendrick, you got Fuller, and you got Durant. If they could all come in healthy, we're going to be fine. And the offensive line's building some continuity too, where we had the most injuries. You got Shelton at center. You got Alaric Jackson at right guard, who I feel like is continuing to progress each week. Edwards and Noteboom are fine on the left side, and Havenstein's healthy. So some continuity week over week. I think we're going to be okay in terms of depth, injury this week, and we're going to be able to put together a solid game plan.
Yeah. Well, let's.
I'm ready for a break.
Let's take a little
What do
break.
you got?
Ready?
I'm ready.
Oh, did you hear that?
Sounded pretty good.
That was the sound of a beautiful can of Liquid Death.
Mm.
There's a new water brand out there, and it doesn't come in a bottle. It looks like a tall boy. You can see if you're watching on YouTube or the website. It's actually just a mountain spring water that's available and still sparkling in 3 flavors. It's Liquid Death, Dean. It's Liquid Death. There's something about drinking water out of a can. It's insanely refreshing. Can fool your mother, your grandmother, your mother-in-law that you're actually drinking beer or something worse. And then, you know what? You just snuck out of the garage, but you're just having one of these puppies. Go get Liquid Death at your local Whole Foods, Ralph's, Albertsons, Vons, or 7-Eleven. Or find Liquid Death at a retailer near you with the store locator tool at www.liquiddeath.com/LAFB.
And here it is on your screen for those that are listening on YouTube or are watching us. Nick is chugging his Liquid Death. Looks like he just finished it. Crushed it. Well done.
Goes down smooth.
Just like a can of beer on game day.
Oh, once it touches your lips. All right. Are we ready for Nick's picks?
Frank, the tag. Yeah, I'm ready.
Did you get the new theme song?
Oh, the new theme song.
Maybe you could just play it from your phone.
I can. That's exactly what I'm going to do.
Wait, hold on. Before I'm just have it prepped. Last week we were able to be hunks, like we know that we are. We went 4 for 1, 4 wins. Only the Lions let us down. Rough, I know, but we took advantage of it and we enjoyed every second of those 4 wins. This week we're going to try to keep it spicy, run it forward with the chaos. But before we do that, Dean, let's listen to the brand new theme song for Nick's picks.
Nick's picks. Nick's picks. Party time. Excellent. Nick's picks. Nick's picks. Let's go bet on the Rams.
That's it. Oh, I'm trying to think of a 2-0 team or a 3-0 team that is starting to hit the decline. It reminds me of your theme songs. I'm just kidding.
Oh,
Fantastic. But, I mean, you started off so strong with Nicky's Roundup, and then you went Mike and Sully, and then you went Wayne's World, which, you know, my heart's in the first 2.
no, I know. And the first one was also by far the longest. But, you know.
Yeah, may have more mass appeal.
Yeah, maybe. Usually I'm just trying to make you laugh. So whenever I do that, it's a win.
Yeah, you did.
Well
done.
But let's roll in. Before we get started, as always, Dean, why don't you give us a lock?
A lock this week. I like the.
This is a weird week.
And I'm giving you a weird pick. I'm taking the Jacksonville Jaguars to cover the spread against the Philadelphia Eagles.
What's the spread, like 5?
I think it's 7.5.
Oh.
It's way too high.
Oh, I'm buying that. I like that.
Dougie P reunion. It could be a little bit too high.
Dougie P homecoming.
Dougie P. Homecoming is going to get a standing ovation in Philadelphia. The Eagles
Absolutely.
fans,
As
I
he
think it's
should.
I think it's in Philly, and he should get a standing ovation. And you know, maybe it's a situation where Eagles fans take their foot off the gas for a second. They're 3-0. The Jacksonville Jaguars are a pretty decent team, as they've shown over the last 3 weeks. I don't think the Eagles are actually
Jaguars
as good as
should
3-0.
be 3-0. Honestly, I don't know how they lost to Washington.
Yeah, well, it's I don't know. I don't know how anybody loses to Washington. I obviously haven't watched a ton of the Jacksonville Jaguars, but I know that they're tough enough to make this a game. And
I mean, let's be real. Has anybody? I just checked the score of the Chargers game, and I was like, "Oh, Marone."
Yeah. No, I know. So yeah, that's my lock.
Okay, I like it. It's not one of my picks, as we all know. But let's get started. We have Vikings versus the Saints in London.
In London,
First of all, yeah, terrible London match. Like two NFC teams that both of them have great home crowds. And now they're not that far away from each other. Taking that away from both of them is just mean. I mean, the Saints need this as a home game, and it's technically listed as one. Instead, they go to Tottenham Hotspur.
what's that? Is that the name of the stadium?
Yeah, that's where they're playing.
Really?
Yeah, Tottenham Hotspur.
Do they play in Germany next year?
Dude, I don't know. I don't know.
I'm sorry. This is about the London game.
At first, I was looking at this game and I thought, Dean, I'm lost. I'm going to have to do it. I'm going to have to go in the map in London. But then I did some research on these teams and their matchups over the last couple of years. You know, the Vikings are 3-0 against the Saints in the last 4 years.
I did not know that.
The Sharps are on the Saints because these London games, usually the underdog usually wins. Last year, Jags got their first win in London. They think the Vikings won't have it after coming off an emotional comeback win, these Sharps. But that makes me think they're finally starting to get the ball rolling, these Vikings. The Vikings defense is the only part that kind of scares me. Maybe the Lions offense is sufficiently good, but either way, I think Jameis will be able to make some plays. And yet I still think Kirk outduels him. I mean, this is the perfect Kirk Cousins game. It's the opposite of prime time. It's on at 6:30 a.m. here. Cousins about to throw 3 touchdowns for 375 yards and no picks.
I'm going 5 touchdowns and 500 yards. Vikings win 35-3.
I mean, because no one's going to watch. It's perfect. The lights couldn't be dimmer. 29-21. Vikings win it in a cheeky way.
Interesting. What does that mean, cheeky way?
That's just something the Brits say. Cheeky.
Oh, okay. I'm removed from.
You hear that a lot in Wallace and Gromit.
Oh, right. Of course.
Mhm.
The key reference to all things London.
Someone's going to be like, you know what? They actually don't say that much on Wallace.
I was going to say that
They
show
don't.
it's just almost impossible to watch that I don't even know how you pulled the quote from it. I remember being 8 years old and thinking to myself, this is horrible.
Yeah, I don't know why. I just think claymation is fascinating. Anyway,
Okay.
Chargers at Texans. Hello, LAFB. I'm sure you're gonna love this take right here because it's my favorite bet of the day. Chargers -5. I mean, I know the Texans have been scrappy, but the Chargers are the whole dang Scooby-Doo squad, and this is about to be monsters unleashed. Seriously though, Herbert is the only reason why this line isn't higher, right? Because we don't know if he's going to play or not. Sure. And yet that has nothing to do with my decision. I'm not pushing the panic button on the Chargers. Their division is weaker than we thought, and they need a couple of these cupcake wins to get back in the swing. This is absolutely one of them. Don't let anybody try to convince you Davis Mills is a good quarterback. Texans have fallen apart in every game that they play. I expect them not to even stand up straight, so they can't even fall. I'm going 32-10. Chargers get their groove back.
I like it. I think it's a must-win situation.
I think if you have $300 to play, because apparently we're giving out my unit size. If you have $300 to place on a game this week, that because I don't really love these games, that would be my pick.
All right,
Chargers -5.
I would agree. I think they cover the spread also.
And then we have Seahawks at Lions because 3 weeks in a row, 4 weeks in a row, we're going to bet the Lions because, I mean, and look, I know everybody's like, oh, Nick, what's your fascination on the Lions? It has to be Goff.
Yeah, you're
And
not
I'm
the
like,
only one though. It's a very likable team.
yeah, just bear with me, right? Lions coming back home after a tough road loss. Seattle could potentially be the worst team in the league. Lions average 7.4 yards a carry. They've covered every spread this year. And their quarterback is a top 10 quarterback. Also, I'm going to take the over 48 because the Lions are capable of scoring 48 themselves. I'm not even joking. Tell me I'm wrong. Also, I love betting against Pete Carroll as a Rams brother. That has made me a lot of money. So I'm going to go 38-11 Lions roar.
I don't know how another team gets to 11 points after what we watched the other night. 38-11, 32-10, 29-21. Those like score predictions are like whole numbers. Every odd number that you could possibly find in there.
38-11. One of these days, I'm going to hit a score right. I don't think I've ever gotten one right.
I was going to say, like, you can go 35-10. Much higher probability of hitting the score.
So let's run it back. Vikings money line at -140. Chargers -5, -110. Lions -2.5. We're going to adjust the line because they do still scare me. So it's not -4. We're taking -2.5. That's -135. Over 48. Lions Seahawks -110. Then a quick pick. Dean, truly, I am sorry. I just really don't love any of these games this week. I really don't. I feel like my Knicks picks were a little lacking in information. So I just hear me out. We're going small units this week. And then I have two quick picks for you, though. But because it's small units, we're not, I feel like I can give out more bets.
Sure.
So small units, I have Steelers over the Jets because betting against the Jets is just a great pastime. And then for you, Dean, iconic Skoranek, anytime touchdown score.
Oh, yes. Oh, perfect segue
Oh,
to this clip that I wanted to share real quick before we sign off for the night. A potential new nickname for Ben Skoranek emerging outside of the iconic Skoranek.
let's hear
Listen in. Could potentially be the Icebox.
What formation you like to run out of Spike?
Power I. Now who's Spike's lead blocker?
The Icebox.
Where's he at?
Right here.
Is Spike mistaken?
Aren't you a girl? No, Skoranek is not. He's the lead blocker. He's the Icebox, and he's going to propel us to victory in this game. Thank you for the segue. I was trying to figure out a way to incorporate the clip.
I had no idea that was queued up. Okay, everybody. So nice. Well done.
Iconic Skoranek snatching passes out of the air, running with glee down the sidelines. Oh, man, let's just
Scoring a
enjoy it
touchdown
together.
for Knicks
The
picks.
purpose of the Skoranek is to everybody can enjoy. Everybody love everybody. Everybody get along and enjoy the Skoranek.
What's his number?
18, Cooper Kupp's old number.
Interesting.
Interesting.
No comment. I don't like it when people wear numbers that I already have associated with players. But I guess Kupp has solidified 10 now.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, I almost forget that he ever wore 18.
Yeah, he's still in my head. Sometimes I'm like, "Where's Kupp?" And I look for 18, and then you have another white guy, and I'm like, "Oh, right."
The incredible illusion.
You have that picture of Skoranek ready, where he's at the press conference, where he kind of looks like me.
I have no, I don't have that picture. Unfortunately,
No.
I have this one.
Yeah,
It kind of
hold
looks
on.
like you there too. Let me sit there. Look, check out the arms. Look just like him. Oh man. Well, that's the only thing. When we had that argument last week, it's a player to have fun around. It's a team to have fun around. You're coming off a Super Bowl victory. We talked about worst case scenario.
I'm
What
working
could
on it.
potentially happened last. No, it's not. It's not just you. It's me too. Like you get caught in these ruts, and it's like you're trying to remember the fact that 49ers win that NFC Championship game. We're just totally miserable as fans.
Oh my god!
Like
or we lose the Super Bowl. Like anything.
Right. In your own stadium, right? And I was there. I couldn't imagine that the price of that ticket and then flying home with a loss. I watched a lot of Bengals fans do it, so I just feel like we're on the good side, and it's an opportunity with players like Bobby Wagner, Ben Skoranek, like some of the new faces to kind of come in here and make a legitimate difference. And I'm always excited for 49ers week. Monday Night Football. Let's
live in the reality of Stan Kroenke standing up there in the NFC Championship, the future NFC Championship, and saying, Ben Skoranek, undrafted. How about that? I don't know if he was undrafted.
No, his 7th round draft pick. I think that's what he said. Ben Skoranek in the 7th round. How about that?
No, he said Cup in the
Cup in the 2nd round, 3rd round.
Yeah.
I just like when Stan Kroenke says, "Whose house?"
Such a good impression. What
How
is?
many times do you think I watched that clip?
Do the Colorado Avalanche have a thing?
No.
Colorado, here we come.
Whatever gets us to win. See, that's what it is. You wins, incredible moments like that. You get to hear Kroenke talk, which I don't know if all Rams fans would like to do or hear, but we've made it, and we Rams brothers have arrived. We're going to be around for a little while, apparently. So stick around, enjoy, like, subscribe, continue listening, continue interacting with us on social. We have a ton of fun with you guys. We're eventually going to work in the guest segment at some point, maybe after 49ers week. We're just trying to figure out the best way that we can do it. So hang tight. In the meantime, go Rams, and we love you guys.
Horns up, baby.
Peace. Go Rams.